Well, good afternoon. Let me ask you a question. Can you imagine Friday night in the fall at your high school not having a football game? That has become such a big part of high school, a big part of life for many people, not just football players, not just cheerleaders, not just the band members, but the whole school and sometimes even the whole community. Friday night in the fall revolves around that thing, that one sport, that one event. Can you imagine it not even being there, not having pep rallies, not having all the other things that kind of go around during school time? Can you imagine that? It's hard to imagine, but the problem we're having now is that we don't have, beginning not to have enough officials. There's declining numbers every year in officials. We're getting to a point, as I've said before, a state of crisis in this. From 2014 to 2018, Click Orlando on April 8th, 2019 said that during this 4 year span, Florida dropped 7%, officials less, officials. Illinois dropped 14%, Kentucky dropped 15%, Michigan dropped 23%. 23%. Why? Well, Fox17Online.com quoted Brad Burnett, a registrar at West Michigan Officials Association, said the average age of officials in the mid 50s. In Georgia, we had heard a few years ago, don't find it writing, but a few years ago, we were talking about that we were up to 56 years was our average age of officials. That's getting on up there for officials. About that time, you're thinking of retiring. Well, Sarah Darren reported in the coachesclipboard.net that older officials, why the problem is that older officials are retiring and they're not being replaced by younger officials. The pipeline is so small on one side and it's getting larger on the other side. Of people going in is small, people going out is large because the age factor we're having to. And how and why is this happening? I don't know, but it's happening. It's been happening for several years. Again, that was a 4 year span that ended in 2018. Some of them say it's compensation. Compensation at GHSA is one of the highest in the nation. We for a football game, you'll make a little over $100 a game. For a JV game, you make around $60 a game. We even have flag football going on now with girls. It's 45, I believe it is, 40 or $40 a game, somewhere in there. So it is a good avocation. Part of the problem with people thinking that enough compensation as they think of it is this can be a full-time job. It's not. It's an avocation. It's a part-time job, and it's pretty good money for a part-time job when you figure it out by the hour. So it's really not that bad of money at all. Another thing cited is abuse is listed. Online masters at Ohio University, they listed abuse as being a major cause. Now, there is verbal abuse that goes on, if you want to call it that. It's a high tension game, high things are going on. Yes, there's people that go on and talk about the call you made, and that's okay. That's going to happen. But what they like to put on it, people I believe is concerned about is physical abuse. I've been doing this for 23 years. I have never seen uh, physical abuse, certainly not by a coach. I've had fans act a little crazy at times, but never to the point that it ever became physical. Does it happen? Yes. One or two games all over the whole nation of the thousands upon thousands of games. I don't know what the percentage would be, a minute percentage, that something like that does happen. But it does happen, but very seldom does that ever happen. But the media is going to report the worst thing. News, bad news is news to the media. Good news is no news. They don't care good things. They don't want it on there. Uh, but the bad things they want to report. So that gets reported and that gets blown out of proportion to a great deal. One of the big problems now from last year is we have the pandemic. pandemic, a lot of older guys that are in that 50 or older range decided to opt out for the year. We're thinking that a lot of them are not even going to come back this year. We won't know until the season, right before the season starts, and we're getting close to that. But most of the time, we don't know till right to that part. But New York State's Capital District reported that they had a 45% drop in the number of officials just last year. Almost half of their officials are gone. That affected everything with what they did on their booking. How could they book? We have to have so many officials a game. In Georgia, there has to be at least 5, preferably 6 officials in a game. So the games have to be moved. Games have to be moved around, changed. Some were canceled last year because there just were not enough officials to cover those games. The same thing's happening in every state. I don't know what the number is in Georgia exactly. I hadn't seen a published report, but we're down. We are down quite a few officials. So it is just an epidemic that just keeps coming, and we believe that the pandemic has caused it to probably slide a whole lot worse and make this decline a whole lot steeper than it was before. But what we find, though, what is the importance of an official? Most people think, we could do without them. That's really not the case. Georgia GHSA executive director of GHSA, Robin Hines, said that probably the most important people on the field are the game officials, because without game officials, we'd have no game. We'd have no game. Can you imagine Friday nights in the fall not having a game?